Okay. Hello and welcome to another episode of the ADHD Goals Podcast. I have a very exciting guest for you today. His name is Dean Hin, and he is a digital nomad and a neurodivergent life hacker. And you are calling in from Mexico today, is that right?
Yes, the sunny Tulum. It's gorgeous here.
Fantastic. How are you doing?
Doing very well. Just had some iced tea, so I'm ready to go.
Fantastic. So there's a bit of an exciting topic. I'm a digital nomad. Might you be able to explain to the listeners exactly what a digital nomad is if they aren't familiar with the term?
Sure. So you have folks who do remote work, and so a lot of people might travel, but a lot of people actually just stay at home. They have families, they have houses, they have car payments, and being a remote worker helps them just live their lives better. And then you have those folks who decide to jump around, go to other countries, live for a little bit, see how things are. Some people do it for arbitrage. They just try to find a cheaper place to live because inflation and all that stuff. So you can definitely take advantage of that. But yeah, it's basically somebody who's working remotely, but from wherever they want to. And people do it in different ways. Some people just maybe do a week or two. Some people just go up like I did. You put most of their stuff in storage and decide to just keep going and seeing where it goes. But yeah, so yeah, a lot of cultural exchange, a lot of gastronomically exploring different places and using different currencies and doing a lot of math of how much is this in dollars. And yeah, that's what I've been doing for quite a while.
Yeah.
For like less than a year, like a couple months.
Yeah. Well, I'm very interested to dive into more detail in that because I've always fancied being a digital nomad because the skill set I have, like with my past career and everything, it sort of lends itself to that. But unfortunately, having two kids in school,
yeah,
it restricts it. Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, their mum, we're separated, so it'd be rather difficult to take them all with me.
Yeah, there's a lot. Like, I don't know if you watched Outdoor Boys, Luke. He's a fantastic YouTube channel. He traveled a lot with his kids. If you watch Johnny Harris, he travels with his kids. So I'm not saying it's easy, but there are ways to do it if you think it's important. But yeah, that's kind of the whole thing. It's like, how do I make this happen even just a little bit? And things like that.
Well, I actually, during lockdown, during the pandemic, I converted a transit van into a camper van. So we have made quite a few camping trips during the summer. And in my mind, I thought, during the weeks, I'll just head off to various places in the UK and work from there. So that hasn't quite worked out the way I imagined it would. I just end up paying for rather expensive parking in London.
Easy. Yeah, that's part of the journey. If you go to like Reddit and stuff and read about it, and people they have these ideas, they have these, which are valid. But at the end of the day, it's so hard to try to figure out things in your head. You kind of just have to get out there and see what happens and take some notes and like, okay, if I'm going to do this next time, what do I need? Like, how would I do better? And that's a lot of that has happened where I'm like, oh no, do I have internet? Can I even connect? Or does this work or did this not work? And that's part of the journey too. But it's a little harder, but that's the fun part sometimes, just trying to figure out how do you reduce your risk a lot of times to just keep going.
Yeah. Sometimes I think I'm very optimistic and I'm using that word instead of naive because I tend to just go ahead and do things without thinking about what I might need. But, that stops me from being worried about not having the right stuff and I'll figure it out on the way or next time.
For me, if I were to break down naive, I would call it optimistic, critical, thoughtful, and resourceful. Because you can't, there's plenty of times where I just jumped into stuff and I'm like, oh, this is terrible. But the good thing about being the digital nomad is if I pick the wrong place for like a week, I'm like, all right, it's just a week. I can deal with this for a week and then get out. Because that's happened plenty of times where if it's just a bad place or if it's like mold or something, or if it's too noisy. Airbnbs, I mean, you can do a whole thing about how to pick the right Airbnb and how to deal with it when you don't, which is kind of what I'm doing. And you have to know that you'll be okay for a short period of time. Like if it's a month, then it's like, okay, this is maybe do a little more research next time. But I think, small scale testing is what I'm calling. I gave that advice to somebody like, oh no, should I pack everything up? But spend a weekend, going an hour away. Spend another weekend going 2 hours away, 3 hours away. Spend a week going a short flight 3 hours away to see if you can do it. Because the truth is, you can do anything in a week. You can survive.
Yes.
If you have to find a coffee shop to do some work, that's okay. And then I didn't do that. I kind of just jumped. I did that a little bit, and then I kind of jumped in the big way. But yeah, you can small scale tests. You can reduce your risk. You can learn how to manage your naivete and realize really at the end of the day, you're going to be okay. Everything's going to be okay. More or less. Hopefully.
But I've sort of been reframing a lot of, I guess what you might call like mistakes, or if I find myself in a tricky situation where I thought that was a terrible idea, I just think, oh, well, just think of the anecdote. This one. It helps me sort of reframe it but before we get into more really useful tips for digital nomading, I wonder if you can maybe take me back a little bit and tell me a little bit about your background and your journey with ADHD. What that's been like.
Oh, it's a roller coaster ride if you even just know somebody with ADHD. And it's even hard to like really pin down what it is. People don't really know what it is. They hear it there and so it's like, oh yeah, I have a little bit of ADHD. And you're like, you don't know what it's like really, but that's cool. That's fine. So yeah, I mean, I used to take stimulants back in college, which was way long ago. But at the time they just give it to you, but they don't explain it to you. So I was like, all right, I didn't take the pills. And there were ups and downs. Like I didn't know how this is the US healthcare system. They just want to prescribe you drugs, which that's not everybody, but it is the majority of people. And so you don't really get the tools, you just get the drugs. And so you kind of left on your own to kind of figure it out. And so even for the longest time, I was like, oh, okay, I'm not really sure what to do. And then you have your struggles with depression and how to maintain relationships and what's kind of wrong with me, all that really difficult struggles because you don't know like what this really is.
Yeah.
And then really what turned us around, and if I say there's going to be people who are going to hate this and people who are going to love it, is TikTok really. And I started that journey maybe less than 2 years ago. And I was just like, is this what this really is? I've dealt with these things. I felt this, but I didn't know that's what this is. I just thought, oh, life is just
what do you mean? What do you mean by TikTok? You've got information on TikTok, or?
Yeah, people sharing their stories about object permanence. I was like, I have that. I need to put everything up. I didn't know that. I thought that was just me trying to find stuff. So you have object permanence. You have, I'm trying to think of words. You have rejection sensitive dysphoria. I was like,
yeah,
I do that. I thought that was just me. I didn't know that was a thing. Or you have like all these different things. You have like nervous system dysregulation. They go all next together. And you're like, what? I didn't know that's what this was. And I know there are people who it's like people hate labels. Like if I give you a clear glass, like if I did give you clear glass and you don't know me and I'm just going to drink this, wouldn't you want to know what that is? Is it bleach or in the water? I'm like, that's kind of ridiculous. Well, I understand it because I was talking about with this with a friend is if it has a label, then what happens is you're given the label and then you're treated like crap. Like, oh, you have ADHD and people just beat on you and they yell at you and they're like, oh, why do you have this problem? And that's really what it is. It's the label itself that's just a tool, but it's the emotions that come with the label, I think, really torment people. And they're like, well, I don't want labels anymore. If you give me a label, then I have to relive all that kind of stuff. And that's part of the trauma of it. And then if you're able to really come to terms with it, and integrate and release that connection to that label, then you can just use it as a regular tool. And you can learn more about it. Then you can really understand what it means and how it affects your life. Like I like to call being neurotypical is like classical physics. You had F equals ma, the parabola. It's all you plug the numbers in, it works every single time. Being neurodivergent is quantum physics. There's a probability of certain outcomes for any day of the week. Like that's the problem. But you only have a probability of if you do the same thing, it's going to work a certain way. Like it could be anything from supplements to drinking water, getting up. Like it's a probability it's going to be a certain way. You can't, and that's hard to explain to people because they're like, well, just tell me what you like. Like even like one example is like caffeine for me. It affects me differently based on the type, day, what happened the week before. And so I tell like, oh, I only drink decaf, but then sometimes I can't drink caffeine. And like, well, what is it? Do you just drink decaf? Do you just drink caffeine? I'm like, depends. Like, and I can't really explain to you how it's going to affect me until I kind of taste it and test and see what's going on. Like that's what people hate. They don't like they don't like that there's a probability. They want to know certainty. And for me anyway, there's not a lot of certainty with how things are, but that's kind of the fun of it too. But that to me, there's a lot to wade through. Like if everything has the probability, but it's changing all the time, how do you do anything? How does that even work? It sounds insane, but that's kind of like this.
Like what you were saying earlier about fun, difficult. A lot of people say, oh, I've got a bit of that, and saying I've got a bit of ADHD. I think what we're experiencing in today's society, today's culture is a dopamine epidemic in terms of our baseline dopamine levels are crashing, which is affecting our executive function, which is similar to the symptoms of ADHD. So you've got like somebody who's born with biological ADHD, which means that they've got fewer dopamine receptors fueling the brain. And then there's somebody who is, like most people, a dopamine through lifestyle. And so people, neurotypical people are hearing the list of symptoms, maybe from TikTok or wherever they're picking it up and going, oh yeah, that's either kind of a bit of me, or they're not necessarily affected by it. And they're going, well, that's not a real thing because everybody procrastinates or has a bad day. But I suppose that the difference is when you've had that for a lifetime and your brain is wired in a different way, interest versus logic, and you build up a collection of labels in terms of not believing you can do stuff, or people saying things to you like, you know, you're so clumsy, or you hurry up, or this, that, and the other, or stop being lazy.
Yeah. And what's wrong with you?
Yeah. And when you said like you get medicated and then that corrects one thing, but it doesn't give you any skills to undo or any way to reframe how you've thought about yourself. And that's a longer process.
Yeah. And expensive. Definitely. It's more expensive to like actually figure out how all this works and give yourself what you need and to find out your strengths and weaknesses and how you operate than you just sit here, take a pill here. And that's the American healthcare system. And it's kind of interesting. Like I do believe like, and there's this great guy on TED Talk who talks about taking medication, how it's like both ostracized, but also like over medication. It's like a weird realm where like, if somebody knows you're on medication, they start to judge you. And I understand there's like legal reasons and like addiction reasons and like, and it's kind of interesting how, because traveling is also difficult with medication, because only American can like prescribe Adderall. I feel like countries are completely illegal. Even if you have it, like if you go to Tokyo, you'll get arrested and put in jail just for having it.
Wow.
So you really have to navigate those types of things. And so it's not just the labels and like the emotional, it's also the physical and the legal. It's like, wow, I'm just trying to be well and live my life. And so there's a lot of obstacles. So even that, you're like, the world is not designed for you. The world is just not designed to help you really succeed. And that's unfortunate. So you have to kind of find other ways.
Going back to the labels, because you mentioned that, I don't know if you were first diagnosed when you were in college or whether it was from before then, but do you think that the labels, being labeled as ADHD, has that changed in the time that you've been diagnosed as ADHD to now? Do you think we're getting better with the labels, or do you think there's still some negative connotations to it?
I can't speak personally to that because I kind of just was in my own world. So I did never really paid attention to labels because I was just too traumatized and like I hated everything. So it never affected me because it couldn't. I think in general, it's kind of weird. I think the problem is it's not just the label, but it's like the media too. And so you're getting that fed from outside sources. If it's like a regular friend, they probably wouldn't care as much. So it's where it's parasocial relationship with the label. because it's not just, is your mom calling you that? Is your friend calling you that? It's what society's saying about that. It's what the news is saying about that. So it's with this weird parasocial relationship where we kind of take it to like, and if you look at like the Instagram stuff and like children scrolling to things and how that affects them, I think that the label speaks more to the parasocial relationship, but also like the relationship with governments and like institutions and how they label you. So that's like the real issue with being labeled, like being put into a database and then being judged on that. Because if you look at like even autism, if you're labeled autism and you're diagnosed, there are countries that won't even accept you. Like Canada, if you try to become a citizen, but you've been diagnosed with autism, you're automatically denied. Other countries do that too. So there are real consequences to being labeled, like having a formal diagnosis. But then there's a parasocial relationship with yourself and society with having a label. And then there's like there's levels to how these labels can affect you. And how you, again, they're all tools for different people at different levels. So yeah, that's a bigger picture of what the label is. So I'm talking about labels for me and how do I, because again, a lot of neurodivergents also self-isolate because the world will judge you. They will punish you. They will beat you with a stick if they find out who you are. It's a little scary sometimes. So you have to be ready. You can't be naive to think that it's a happy-go-lucky world and that if you divulge information, people are going to use it against you. That's actually a very neurotypical thing. That's what I found out. Because neurodivergents, they're like, oh, I'm just going to tell you everything about myself. And you can't do that. There's a lot of dangers out there. But if you build a strong enough support system, if you build a good enough system, you can defend yourself against that. I think that's kind of where the being naive isn't good because there are real dangers out there with the labels. So I'm generally talking about the labels that you can use as a tool to do more research, to find out more, to get the support that you need versus like a medical label that if you need medication, then you'll need that label. And then certain labels are just, if you search on TikTok, like if you get diagnosed with autism, there's no benefit to it. If anything, there's only downfalls and downsides because the government will judge you. They'll treat you differently. Jobs will treat you differently. And so there's no material benefits to using that label. I mean, even social level, if you go out there, you just talk about it, people will run away. They will look at it and like, oh, what is that? Do you have like leprosy? Is that the same thing? And they don't want to talk about it because they're scared of it too. They don't know what it is. And you look at like all the vaccine, autism stuff, and like, even that's scary. Like there's a lot of misinformation and labels and then being treated poorly. At the end of the day, what you want to avoid is being treated poorly because everything else doesn't matter. If somebody calls you names, whatever. But if somebody physically attacks you, somebody talks down to you, somebody denies you a job, that's a physical consequence of having a label. So it's a really tricky area. So when I talk, I'm just talking like that. So for me, it's just, how do I deal with it? How do I get the resources? How do I research it? And it's not just for me. It's how do I understand other people too, who have it. Like this one friend I met in Mexico, we were just hanging out, we were just talking, and I sent him another podcast of being neurodivergent. Like, I didn't know you were neurodivergent. I might be too. And then he had so many questions for me. Yeah. And I was like, oh, I didn't expect him to be that. So it's kind of, that's also kind of really nice benefit too, of like hearing other people's struggles and maybe being able to help them. It's really difficult one way or another. And I didn't know that was, I really wasn't trying to do that, but I'm like, oh, wow, he really was struggling and maybe I was able to help him, but it's still going to be a really tough journey. It really depends, but in general, it's a tough journey. So hope that answers the question. There's labels for different reasons at different levels, but I think for most people, you don't have to worry too much about that. Like those things you have to get involved. Like you have to get involved with the government if you want to get a particular diagnosis. Where if you're just talking about looking at TikTok, how do I make my life better? How do I suffer less? Having that label is fine. Don't tell your friends. They're not going to help you. Don't tell other people. They're probably not going to help you. So again, if you go back to the neurodivergency, people are the enemy a lot of times, but just so they don't know any better, they're operating on old software, old knowledge, but they're not being helped. It's like when somebody says, when you tell them I struggle with keeping things clean, you're like, oh, just make a list. Oh, just do that. You don't understand. That's not what that is. Yeah. And so they're trying to be helpful, but they don't understand.
Yeah.
And yeah, I had this really interesting conversation with somebody once. Is, okay, well, I know you have ADHD. How can I be more helpful? How can I? And I'm like, that is such a difficult question because it is not easy. It is not easy to help somebody, even if your intention is direct, because it's quite, and this really was, and I don't really know what that means. I'm trying to figure that out. How do I ask for help? I don't even tell you what I need. Like that, that's really
Well,
difficult too.
that's one of the big things that I have with my coaching clients is they generally come to me when they're when they're facing challenges. Then they're not coming to me because life with ADHD is great,
Yeah.
and they just want to
Yeah.
talk about it for 1 hour a week.
Yeah.
They're coming to me because they're having challenges at home or at work. And if they're newly diagnosed, then they're saying, I want to know whether I should tell my work in order to be able to make things better. But then they have this conversation or dialogue with the place of work, and the place of work is saying, okay, well, what do you need? And they're like, I don't know yet. And so you really have to sort of drill down into what the challenges are that they're having, and then how the place of work can then give them accommodations or create some accommodations for them. You're reliant on the company having an awareness of what ADHD really is in order to have any empathy at all with what the challenge is. And then you've got to overcome the barrier of, are they looking through the perception of, well, you've got coaching now, that's you fixing your ADHD.
We're done. You can move on.
Yeah. When can you carry on? When can you carry on fitting into the box that we put you in, rather than saying, "Hey, let's look at what your strengths are and how can we help you thrive?" But yeah, that's another thing.
That's unfortunate.
I wonder, talking about getting back to the digital nomading and talking about your ADHD, where did those two things join? Where did you think to yourself, yeah, hey, I'm gonna work from anywhere. I want to start hitting the road and living life as a digital.
That's a great question. There's actually a lot in that. One, I was just kind of, part of it was like fed up with just being in Philly, because I was trying to make friends forever. I was just trying to live my life, but I always felt stuck. And it could I was in originally feeling like maybe it's just Philly. But then the other part was like, it's cold. I don't want to be cold anymore. Why do I have to be cold? I don't have to be cold. But I was already working remotely for like 3 or 4 years before I even decided to go full into I was like, let's just do this. Before I did travel to like Miami for like a month, Austin for a month, and then Oakland for a month. But the US is really expensive. That's the other thing.
What sort of work were you doing?
Software engineering. Yeah. So just coding. Yeah. I'm trying to do social media stuff, but that's more of a hobby. That's just like, hey, can I do this? It's not easy. But yeah, so I had some dabblings in the digital nomad remote stuff. And then, okay, so one of the pillars was I did a lot of healing. So I had a lot of therapy. I did a lot of somatic work. I also went on Ozempic. So I lost a lot of weight too, because I was struggling with that forever too. So I actually got to a really good place, like emotionally, physically. I had therapy too. And then I was just like, okay, well, what do I want to do now? Like, what's going on? And then one of my friends was actually going to Playa del Carmen. So I haven't traveled internationally for very long. This was actually last March. So I went with him and I was like, oh, this is great. I was like, I didn't know what to do. And like I said, one of the best things you can do is get a mobile router. Like the Wi-Fi in the room, it was like this little spot I had to go into to work. I couldn't move around because the router was terrible.
Yeah.
I was like, oh man, this is terrible. But all right, I just have to do this for a little bit, like this one little section of the whole apartment. So I was like, okay, let's test this for a little bit. So I was there. I was like, oh, Sunshine's amazing. Everything was more affordable. The people were nicer. I'm like, this is nice. This is great. And then I got back and I was like, I don't want to do this again. So after that, my lease was up in July. So I was like, okay, I really want to do this. What do I really need here? So, but I also, it was also an opportunity for me to clean up a lot of pandemic hoarding and like really clean up all this crap that I had. And I started Airbnb too. So I like had all this stuff. So I'm like, all right. And I've been trying to get rid of it for like years. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to use this as an opportunity to get rid of most of the stuff. I still have a bunch of it left. And so that was another reason where I was like, okay, this is an opportunity for me to really reset some of my life. And then the adventure part of it is like meeting all these cool people, like just seeing the sunshine. But then there's also like that scary part of like, I didn't know Spanish. So I'm like, and it's so hard. For me, it's really hard to learn another language. So, but it's also kind of exciting, like trying to figure out how do I communicate with somebody in a different language, because I don't want to be like disrespectful of their culture and just speak English. But at the same time, it's really hard. So I'm trying work like other people like, oh, you should speak English. I have dollar. Like, nah, I don't want to do that. But it's like, but at the same time, like, if you spoke English, that would be great because that helps me out. 'Cause I'm really having trouble. So that was also kind of the exciting part of learning the language, different cultures, different food, meeting different people, conversing with them. I was like, okay, that's like that. So you have to have the positive, and like the negative is like just saving money. Like, how much money am I spending being here in Philly, having a car? Getting rid of a car was also like, I want to get rid of my vehicle. Like, I hate having a car. So I got rid of my car. I got rid of my insurance. So like all these positives kept adding up and up. I was like, all right, this doesn't make more sense. But I got 3 months. I got to just do all this crazy stuff in 3 months. Like get a new driver's license, get rid of my lease, get rid of my car. And it's just like, oh man, this is a lot. So that was part of it too. Like it got more and more exciting. And I was like, all right, I'm doing this. But there's every time I do that, there's always like, okay, well, you did all this cool stuff, but you don't have to go. You can still cancel everything. You can still, you don't have, I've done the many times where I have to kind of give myself outs just to tell myself if anything goes wrong, I can still just cancel it. Nothing. It doesn't matter. If I get rid of my house and then I'd sign up to go, I can still just get Airbnb and just stay in Philly or whatever. So giving yourself outs is kind of important too, because if it's just all or nothing, then that's a lot of pressure. And then like, what if I do fail? So I give myself the grace to do that. So yeah, it was all those things. And I didn't realize like traveling and meeting new people was really amazing. Seeing different countries and how they operate. Just like the weird thing of trash. Like I know the country's amazing. Like, cause in America, you have to keep your own trash and then they take it out like once a week. And so you have to bring all your trash out once a week. In Mexico, they just have like dumpsters everywhere. In Greece too, you just take all your trash there. Whatever it is, you just go and put it in there. Whatever, you take it out and you put it, it's just there for the whole week and they take it out. Like, this is so much more efficient. And I said, I think little things like that blew my mind. Like, they just have a big dumpster that everybody just put their trash out the wait. I don't have to keep this in my house for a week, have it smell. I'm like, why isn't everybody doing this?
Yeah.
And they are. It's just like, we decided not to do that. And, if you want to get into it, there's probably a dumpster corporation trying to, make these things ridiculous. Like in America, dumpster is like this iron thing that weighs like 10,000 pounds. In Greece, it's plastic that you can move around. It's not going to kill anybody. But in America, it will kill you. Like a dumpster will kill you. You avoid going next to a dumpster. And I've worked at food service where you have to go take the trash out. Like, this thing can kill me. Like it's designed to murder me. But in Greece, it's literally part of the scenery. It's painted green. Looks pretty nice. It doesn't smell. There's like this little lever at the bottom. Like, this is crazy. So those little things, I'm like, this.
So where are some of the places you've been in since you've been digital nomading?
So I had been to Thessaloniki, Greece, which is the second largest city in Greece. I had no idea. I've been to Hvar, Croatia, gorgeous country, which stretched right into Dubrovnik, which is what the Game of Thrones was. I didn't go because it's very touristy. And then I went to Oslo, Norway, which is like the future. It's literally the future. They have electric cars everywhere. It's kind of crazy. They've all been fairly diverse. Like I never thought about it, but they have like a big immigrant population. So you have like Indian food that's like really amazing. You have like all these things. So Oslo is like the future, like literally, but it's cold there all the time.
Yeah.
And then I went to Antwerp, Belgium, which is an incredible city, and which is right next to Brussels, which, being a dumb American, I didn't know that was like where the UN was. Where the European Union is headquartered. I'm like, So Brussels, and then I was in Playa del in Mexico, and I traveled around Mexico. So I went to Hobach, Isla Mujeres, and then now I'm in Tulum. So that's been my journey so far. And there's a whole itinerary of other places to check out as well.
Yeah. And so the working part of the digital nomading, is that because do you because I know that some people do it in a way where they do gig work, as in they might do freelancing or whatever, or have you got the security of like a long-term contract that allows you to know that you can travel and you still got work to do to fund yourself?
No, I'm straight up full-time employee. I work for a really great company. As long as I get stuff done, like a really amazing team, So there are people from all over the place on the team, even before the pandemic. We were remote before the pandemic. So
Yeah.
they were very remote forward with all that stuff. And then, so the one challenge is I do have to stay on Eastern time. So even when I was in Europe, and it kind of lucked out that all those countries are in the same central time zone, except for Greece. So by the time I finished work around 5, it was like 11 PM. So that's still kind of nice. So I could still go out and do stuff. And then work started at 9 a.m., 8, 9 a.m., which is about 1, 2 p.m. Central European time. So most people, what they'll do is they'll get up for work at like 8 or something, 7, they'll do work. And then at night, they'll go out and they'll dinner, they'll hang out with their friend and do stuff. So my schedule was different. So I actually woke up early and way early, like almost like Eastern time would be 5 o'clock in the morning, because that's when things are open. That's when I can go to the gym. That's when I can go grocery shopping. That's when I can go to lunch, because during work, everything's closed. So I have to go out for dinner after work. So I 11, it's like a pizza shop that's open maybe. So it is a different shift. And the weirdest thing is actually you cannot rely on the sun to tell me what time it is. I had to constantly check my watch. Even worse, sometimes I had to check a calendar to know what time it is, because I'm like, is it Thursday or is it like I can't? So it kind of messes with me a little. But again, I had to know that, and I had to use my tools. You rely on your tools, which is not a bad thing.
Yeah.
I had to use it to sort of like, am I late for a meeting, or am I supposed to be asleep? So that gets kind of weird sometimes. But once you do it for like a month, you're like, oh, that's what. And I tell everybody, I'm on Eastern time. Like, it's the gimmick or something. Like, no, I'm literally like it's literally 5 o'clock in the morning, and I'm out.
Yeah.
So I would go to bed like Eastern time, like 7 or 8 PM. And then I'll wake up like 5 AM and then do stuff and go to work. So I mean, that's how and honestly, it's not too bad. But then I was like, okay, I need to like get back to sunshine. So that's when I came back to Mexico, because it's Eastern time. So I'm in a regular schedule with my work. I get up same time I get to go out to dinner. So, but yeah, honestly, it's not too bad. It's actually kind of interesting.
I think because I love, you mentioned the tools, but I speak to a lot of people in America, and it's when we're setting up calls and stuff, quite luckily, when they look at my calendar, it's already converted to whatever time they're seeing. So I don't have to have that back and forth of, oh, can we book it for around 2 o'clock? And I'm like, is that 2 o'clock for me, or is that 2 o'clock for you? They look at my calendar and you pick the slot. And but I mean, I suppose that's having the reliability of the right tools that will help make your life easier. Because it can be a challenge, especially obviously with ADHD is constantly doing that mental gymnastics of time management. Time management's bad at the best of times.
You got to offload. You have to trust your tools. You have to know your tools, and you have to offload that, because you're not the best person to do it. The tool can do a much better job, or like a service, having somebody do it for you for certain things like laundry. Let them do it. Let them figure that out, and you just you live your life. But yeah, tools are very important. But there's also a learning curve in how to use them, and so you have to really be. If you're going to rely on, you're going to be dependable on them. You better know how they work, and you better know what they can and can't do.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and definitely, because you can go the other way, the other direction, and go, all right, I need all these tools. And then you just get a whole bunch of tools that you don't really know how to use yet. And then you get completely overwhelmed and then just dump the whole lot because you're too much too soon.
Yeah, it's like GPS. Like sometimes when I put it into my drive, like, oh, don't worry, I know the way. I'm going to use the GPS. I'm going to trust the GPS. I'm not going to pretend like it's a hybrid. We're going to follow the directions that we either get the result. Because some people are like, oh, look, there's highway. I'm like, I'm just going to follow the GPS. I don't need to think about it. I just drive and avoid traffic and stuff like that. So, but yeah, I mean, a lot of people don't trust it, or they think they're better than it. It's like this weird ego thing sometimes where they don't want to use it because they think they're better than it. So I'm like, why do you have to be better than Google Calendar? Just use it.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of weird, but it's cool. People do that sometimes. And also having a backup, like having redundant tools helps too, just in case.
So if you were to, just looking at the time that we've got left to chat, if you were to give maybe like a few top tips to anybody who's listening who really likes the idea of becoming a digital nomad, what would your top tips be into sort of making that?
That's a great question. So the advice I give that I guess I kind of followed it, but not really to the letter, is just do small scale testing. That's a great lesson for anything. Small scale test it before buying like 100 rolls of or 100 things of whatever. Buy one and then try that. But there's like for me, I figured out, why do I keep trying to do everything in bulk? And there's a trauma response because it's cheaper in bulk. It's cheaper to buy things at once than it is to buy one and test it out. Like when you do the math, but spend the money for the lesson of like, okay, if I spend one night in an Airbnb, what's it going to be like versus if I just thinking a whole month. Then you're thinking a whole month and it sucks. You can't accept the deal on it. And that's fine too. But like if you can small scale test it, like I said, instead of jumping all the way in and being shocked and like traumatized, just spend a weekend, or I guess if you're working, spend like 3 or 4 days, 2 hours away somewhere and see what that's like. Take notes. Okay, what did it want? The Wi-Fi stuff. Okay, how do I manage Wi-Fi? At one point I was in Austin, I had to buy my own cellular router because the Wi-Fi was just terrible. It was at a hotel. I'm like, okay, I need this. How do I manage this? Buy a mobile router. I still have my cell phone, so I can do that. So small scale tests, find out what the pain points are, and then find out solutions for them. Like another thing is like the mobile router. When I was in that hotel, that little corner, I'm like, okay, this is dumb. I can't just work in this little corner, but I can't move because the Wi-Fi router sucks. What can I do? One of the greatest things you get is a mobile router, because that actually provides it can extend the Wi-Fi range. A lot of times if they have an Ethernet connection, which actually they do a bunch of times, they do that in a lot of different places. You just plug the Ethernet into your router, and then now you have a better router. And the other thing is if you have like a million different devices, which I do, I have like a phone, I have a laptops, I have a Roku, the router now provides the connection point. So you just put in your password once instead of connecting every single thing to the new router.
Yeah.
So yeah, small scale testing, stuff like that. You can find out what you need and you do the research to accommodate yourself and getting that. So and yeah, and then after that, put a plan together. Clean up your life is also a really great thing. Get rid of crap you don't need. That's good just for anybody. Sell stuff you don't need.
So then again, a big declutter before.
Yes.
Because then you don't have
to throw everything in storage if you really had to, but you have to pay for it and then you have to deal with it when you come back. So I guess that's another advice is like they used to call like a big audacious hairy goal, or like have your vision of perfection, but then be okay with less than perfect. Like, so the obstacle, like I sell all of my crap I don't need, keep the stuff that I do need, and that would be perfect. That's never going to happen. So I had to get rid of half of my stuff and then just put the other half in storage. That's totally fine. It's a couple extra bucks. Don't afraid to spend a little extra money for a little bit of comfort, like whatever, a couple bucks for a storage unit. That's totally fine. But also, so another is pick your destinations well. Mm-hmm. I would not pick any place that's way too popular, like Barcelona, Spain, way too popular. They actually have issues with that. So the problem with that is the demand is high and the supply is lower. So you have to spend more money for certain things. Like in Playa del Carmen.
What do you mean the supply is low?
Mainly housing, mainly like Airbnbs, because that's going to be your biggest expense out of everything you do. Like in Playa, there's more supply than there's demand. You might not get the best place, but you can get a reasonable place. You don't have to book months in advance. It's an idea if you find somebody you like to do that. They're more flexible because they have more supply. You're not fighting for every little thing. If you go to New York, you're going to fight for like little tiny areas. And then what's the point? So find places to go that are more like Greece. My friend actually told me, oh yeah, everything's cheap in Greece. Go there. I'm like, okay, because then you have the optionality because you're not fighting for every penny. But if you have a nice place you want to go to, like Havar, like I love Havar, I would book 3 months in advance. But I'm not going to do that for every single place. Most of the times I book a month in advance. And then I where do I want to go? And I kind of figure out, because there's so many nice places that people don't know about. I didn't know about Playa del Carmen until my friend told me about it, that you can go to that makes it easier. If you want to, you can go to all these places. You can go to Tokyo, you can go to London, you can go to Barcelona if you want to, but it's going to be a little difficult. It's going to be frustrating. And you can really get good experiences outside of those places for a month at a time versus weekends.
What about socializing. So do you like to travel by yourself
Yes.
and keep yourself to yourself? Or do you like, have you found that since you've been digital nomading that you've really come out of your shell and you just connect with people? Or do you actually connect with a digital nomad community, for example?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think like for me anyway, I have moments of I want to be social and times I don't want to see anybody.
Mm.
So I oscillate. But no, I do a lot of social events. One great thing is pub crawls are great. There's a lot of places that kind of set that up. I did one in Greece. It was great. I met these really cool people. It was small. But then I did it in Warsaw. Oh, yeah, I went to Warsaw, but there's like too many people. So you try it out and see how it is. It's like a couple bucks. So pub crawls, just Google pub crawl in the city. Meetups are great. You can Google meetups. And so in America, you don't use WhatsApp. You use iMessage or you use Android messaging. Everyone else in the world uses WhatsApp. So there's WhatsApp groups. So in my apartment, there's like this spreadsheet. If you just Google, there's this huge, large spreadsheet of all these different groups that you can join. I joined all of them because I'm crazy like that, but I put it on mute and they're constantly have so many events. They have dance classes, they have cacao ceremonies, they have yoga. And I was like, there's so much to do here. And it's not expensive, like $5 here and there. So this is insane. You can do you can do multiple things every single day. I meet really cool people. So those are like the organized thing. And then last night, just walk in the street and just say hi to people. Like, so the one thing they say, like, if you go to the country, they say about Americans that I didn't know is like, Americans are really friendly. I'm like, really? Like, what are you guys doing? And I'm like, I didn't think that. I'm just saying hi to people. And like, oh, you guys are really like, cool. That's fantastic. But then they're friendly in a so I think Americans like friendly, like a loud way, like in your face kind of way. But then I think Europeans are more friendly in like a, I want to get to know you kind of way, like tell me more about your life kind of thing. So it's kind of an interesting that they say that, even though it's like, that's the cultural exchange. So yeah, just going to your local bar and like, or asking for help or asking, hey, what's a good place to eat? Like, I'm kind of new here. Like, yeah. So yeah, somebody taught me that, like, just talk to locals. And I know it's hard, especially in the language, but in English, that's another thing. Like, don't necessarily make it harder yourself. If you don't know the language, there's a lot of English speaking places that will accommodate you. Even like Norway, they teach English. Everybody knows English.
Yeah.
Which sounds kind of terribly. Well, why don't you learn it? It's hard to learn another language. It's want to get started. I'm learning Spanish right now, so eventually I'll be able to do that. But right now, I'm not going to put that pressure on myself to do that because that's something I want to respect, but again, it's not easy. So yeah, just ask people, hey, what's a good place to eat? And then it depends on how good you are at like making those connections with people. And you just learn how to do it. It's like, hey, I'm not the right person to teach that. There's funny, and a lot of it's that how they make friends with people, but just being curious is a good one. Asking questions, where are they from? What do they like to eat and eating and drinking?
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of the way society has been forever. Eating, drinking, asking questions is how you make friends, but it's not easy sometimes. Yeah. So those are the basics: pub crawl, find meetups, find WhatsApp groups, and then just asking like, hey, what's a cool club to go to? And it might even be the person you're asking that's going to be the person you socialize with. It's where they send you to that you're going to find the people to socialize with. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of great things. There's a lot of great things you cannot Google. That's the other thing. There's a lot of good things that are just not online that you cannot find. That is just so much easier to just ask them. That's, but we're especially after the pandemic, it's a lot harder to be social. It's a lot harder to ask questions. And I think like kind of having to do that is also another great benefit of traveling because you have to ask. It's really difficult to find anything, or it takes so much time and effort if you don't like ask people. We don't do it all the time, but like it increase your ask ratio to your American individual research, do it yourself.
Yeah.
I don't want to say mentality. I want to say coercion.
I suppose it becomes like a muscle that you exercise a little bit that gets stronger. If you put yourself in a situation where you need to ask to find somewhere to eat or drink.
Yeah. And you realize people aren't that scared. They're actually very friendly.
That's it. I wonder if there's anything like if people wanted to connect with you or check you out, where you would send people like social media or.
Yeah, right now I'm on Instagram. I'm building that out. I do have a couple websites. I think Nomad Travels is one of them. So those are the two right now. I'm still building that out. But again, I'm not trying to be perfect. Like most people are like, oh, you can't do this unless you have. I'm like, nah, let's just do it. Let's see what happens, which isn't great, but whatever. It's cool. I was cool with it.
So what's your Instagram handle? I can put it in the show notes.
Oh, Dean Hin X. So DANHINX. Because I'm extreme to the core. So
Cool. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me today. And yeah, it's brought back a lot of plans that I had in my younger days to go traveling. Yeah, I might actually pull out a map and think of some places in the UK that I can just see if I can go and camp for a week whilst trying to get some work
go
done.
with a friend. Oh, another good resource is couch surfing, which still exists. You don't have to actually stay in somebody's couch. You can actually just make friends and be like, hey, I can come visit you now. And so that's another way too.
Cool. So you've given some really great tips and stuff to think about. I like that WhatsApp group with you can download the spreadsheet of
There's so many. It's kind of amazing. You also get to see like people creating all these, like they have like sound baths. And so they're combining sound baths with yoga, or they're combining cacao with like dancing. They're creating all kinds of interesting events, and they're really affordable. You can literally do them as much as you want. I think that's amazing. Like people are creating new things or getting people together. The community in Finance is wild, like how much they're supportive, and like they have spiritual sides, and like I had no idea. Like there's so many, like, wow, people are really trying to connect and make things happen. And they're all over. It's just, how do you find it? That's the hardest part, is just finding one.
Well, great stuff. All right. Well, thanks so much. I hope you have a really great day where you are in Mexico. And thanks for chatting.
It's been great. Once again, appreciate it.
Well, there we have it. Thank you so much for listening this far. If you want to hear more episodes, then please subscribe on YouTube or whatever podcast platform you use. It really helps to spread the word. So if you know anyone this episode could help, then please share it with your friends. If you want to follow me on social media, I am on Instagram at ADHD_goals, and you can find me on Facebook too. If you want to get in touch with the show, then you can email me at hello@adhdgoals.co. And finally, if you're struggling to manage your ADHD and you would like me to be your coach, then please head over to my website and get in touch. Until next time, bye for now.